Hello, today we're going to be speaking on submerged aquatic vegetation and nutrient pollution. Mr. Snow, would you please explain to us what submerged aquatic vegetation is?
Yes, submerged aquatic vegetation, or SAVs, are going to be underwater vegetation like seagrass and other like corals, and including
Kelp.
seaweed, kelp, things like that. A lot of that grows on the coast of North Carolina, and they have underwater species that use that as their homes, such as North Carolina's blue crabs and many other species of fish that also live there.
They live there and they eat them, and it's a very balanced habitat.
One thing that's also in this ecosystem are algae, and algae float towards the top of the surface of the water, giving off a greenish look, but you don't really get to see them that much. One thing that the ecosystem has plenty of is sunlight. Sunlight comes and pours through the water and reaches the SAVs, and that's how the SAV survives underneath the water without any other source of nutrients.
Yes. All right, and these algae eat nutrients in the water. Now, the problem comes with nutrient pollution. What is nutrient pollution? It is when we fertilize our crops in North Carolina, and then the rain and the water runoff runs into these ecosystems, and so there's a surplus of nutrients. And why is that a problem?
Well, when we have a surplus of nutrients going through the water, the algae eats this up. Normally, it's not a problem because nutrients naturally come into this ecosystem and therefore keeps a balance. But whenever more nutrients comes in, algae continue to eat and grow at a more exponential rate than they normally would, causing them to become more of a blanket on the surface of the water.
And it blocks sunlight for the SAV, which is a problem because when the SAV is starved, the balance of the whole ecosystem is thrown off.
And then whenever the ecosystem is thrown off, the SAV will start to die and therefore decrease the amount of habitable places that these crabs and fish can live in.
Yep. Today we're going to demonstrate this phenomenon with a xylophone and mallets. The xylophone represents the ecosystem.
Our mallets are going to be our algae for the ecosystem. And then also, the tone that comes from the xylophone is going to represent the amount of sunlight that's reaching from our algae to the ecosystem.
Now, with these first mallets, this is an ideal situation. No nutrient pollution, plenty of sunlight, and very clear waters.
Then, whenever we have more nutrients come in, our algae grow much thicker and will result in a much more clouded sound for the ecosystem through sunlight.
Now the tone here is muted the same way that the sunlight is prevented from reaching the SAV. The same way this tone is prevented from being as clear as it was with the other mallets in the ideal situation.
But algae do not stop growing. Whenever we continue to have more nutrients come in for the algae to eat, the algae gets still much thicker on the surface of the water. Therefore, we can see that the sunlight is being blocked by the algae for the SAVs, causing the sound of our sunlight to be very diminished.
Absolutely. And now here the difference between a ecosystem rot with nutrient pollution, with algae blanketing the surface, and the difference between that and an ideal ecosystem where there's no surplus of nutrients in the water from pollution. Any closing remarks?